I don't like kind of where it's at, and I don't think it's headed in a good place either. And it's just becoming um, schools just paying and not caring really about the grades, what's going to happen to graduation rates, what's going to happen. Like that's the data I kind of want to see. So we know, like, are we actually doing good or are we actually doing harm?
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with us today on this Road Down Thursday edition, Captain for Life, Will Cotton. Will, how you doing, man? A lot of things going on in the college world. We need your thoughts on what's going on.
Oh, man, I just got back from Arizona, and that jaunt was fun. A lot of golf. I might move there. Very
not
nice.
bad. Not bad.
Yeah,
a little
not bad at
cost
all.
of living than I thought. Not South Carolina, but
yeah, right. Not bad. Not bad for sure.
But not bad. All right. And our team leader, and I do need an educator today, Mike King. Mike, what's going on, sir?
Doing well.
All right. So in segment one, we're going to talk about the new transfer and NIL rules. Segment two, will the women's game become more like the men's game in college? And three, overreaction to the transfer portal, as well as punishments handed down to Michigan and Arizona State. But first, fellas, it's official. A new NCAA transfer rule will allow all undergraduate athletes to transfer and play immediately if they meet specific academic requirements. The rule will provide immediate eligibility to athletes who have transferred during the 2023-2024 academic year, including the football players who will be entering the portal as it closes after spring games. Previously, the NCAA had a one-time transfer rule that allowed athletes to play immediately at the first school that they transferred to, but then they had to sit out a year if they transferred again. College football's 15-day transfer window ends April 30th. Will, you are the player. What are you thinking about this new change?
I like it. I like it. I get to move and I get to go. I got to go and go up play immediately. Now, that makes me think about the next play I go. So maybe the place I originally go to when I change, I think a lot more thoughtfully about it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe finding some balance is what I'm saying. Read your book. Understanding that, fit is big. So I'm cool with that. And obviously NIL and guys being able to make money, that's fine. I get to sit out a year. I may have some money stacked. I can have some NIL money stacked. I can train. I think we'll see a lot of flat. I think we'll see it more in all kinds of sports. I see what baseball happen. I see what volleyball. I mean, why should that just, it'll start to, expand out exponentially. I think that's the way it is. But yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great, and it puts the decision onto the student athlete and make a good decision instead of just going place to place to place.
All right. So, Mike, you're a teacher, and credits don't leave when you do. So tell me your thoughts as a teacher and now as a coach and an athletic administrator. This has come across your desk. What are you thinking, sir?
So you have to meet certain academic requirements to get this.
Measurable progress, yes.
Yeah. But when I'm on my third school in 3 years, they don't care what's going on with, like, when you're at a place and that's your place, they're invested in you. When I'm going to my third place in 3 years, my fourth place in 4 years, and my fifth place in 5, they don't care what I'm doing with school. I mean, I'm there to play and then go. I generally would say, like, more in favor of things for the player. But it just seems like there's no thought in what's actually best for the people involved. They didn't want to pay people, and then now they've got this mess, and it just gets messier. It's I don't like kind of where it's at, and I don't think it's headed in a good place either. And it's just becoming Um, schools just paying and not caring really about the grades, what's going to happen to graduation rates, what's going to happen. Like that's the data I kind of want to see. So we know, like, are we actually doing good or are we actually doing harm?
All right. So for me, folks, the obtaining of a college degree has been de-emphasized, and that hurts me. That's something that is really close to my heart. For many student athletes, it is the obtaining of a college degree that opens up new opportunities. It's the degree that gets you into that next room, next job, next this, next that. So, in terms of the CKA Save Project, we will continue to fight to empower student athletes through education and advocacy because, yes, move, do whatever you want to do, transfer here, there, and the other. But at the end of the day, get something. And that something is a degree. So, moving forward, NIL news. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin signed a bill last week that will significantly change the way colleges and universities in the state of Virginia can operate with regards to name, image, and likeness of student athletes. This bill goes into effect July 1st, and it will allow UVA and its peer institutions to be considerably more involved with helping student athletes navigate NIL opportunities. A university will be allowed to directly compensate student athletes for their use of name, image, and likeness if its governing body approves policies and procedures that govern NIL. The bill also stipulates that student fees are not allowed to be used to pay student athletes for NIL. The hope is that Congress will establish a uniform NIL regulation that every state will have to follow because right now each state is doing its own thing. I'm going to Mike first as the social studies teacher. Mike, the Articles of Confederation didn't work. What are you thinking about each state coming up with its own NIL law? Talk to the people.
You need to know the rules if you're going to break them. I
Don't
think is
say who
the,
said that.
I think that's the moral of the story. So the states get to make their own rules and they get to do whatever they want. And this is what Virginia should be doing. This is what as soon as this all happened, I said, "Oh, this is a chance for a school like Maryland to become top tier at everything if they find the money. It's the Wild West. So until the rules are clear for everyone and everyone's playing by the same rules, why are you like putting one hand behind your back?" So yeah, this is exactly what they should be doing, but there should be standards because again, when every state gets to run themselves, nothing works. We've got data.
Hey, Will, you're a compliance guy. You're looking at structures and how to handle rules and stuff. Every week, I keep telling you the rules keep changing. What are you thinking?
Sometimes when they put in policies out for organizations, I mean, some organizations can afford to do it, some can't. I hope Maryland, like again, Mike King must be reading off my playbook because he's saying everything I'm trying to say. But I think, yeah, I mean, why shouldn't Maryland? Why shouldn't other states do their own thing? If the federal government is not going to come in and say, hey, you need to do this, need to do that, and it would be difficult to do that anyway, considering that each state makes different amount of money based on what they're from and where they are. I think they should base it on the states. I think they should go in and say, hey, we're Maryland. Let's say what we can provide to NIL. Hey, we're Florida. What can we provide to NIL differently than other states that, maybe this, maybe that. Maybe things like that. Maybe it's a little bit more lax in terms of or percentages or things like that. Yeah, I think it's perfect. I mean, even if it is the wild wild west, I think at least some point the states who can actually get away from the federal government and make decisions and make because I mean, in my experience, especially recently with like voting and things like that, state voting has happened a lot more recent and has a lot more impact since the federal instead of federal side. So I think it's good for the states to do that. I think it opens up a lot of doors and opens up a lot of opportunities that kids may. Who knows if Wyoming is like, hey, we have this great NIL, and all of a sudden everybody going to Wyoming. So it could change the landscape of the states. I mean, now we're talking about millions and millions of dollars, and kids who haven't even voted yet are worth millions of dollars, and so I agree with Mike King. Let them do their own thing, legislate themselves, and maybe they should have like a federal blanket. Like all things are illegal regardless if you do them. But I'm with, again, Mike King. Stop reading my notes. You're everything. You're on it, man. You're on it.
Well, to close out my thoughts, this all reminds me of Common Core. Common Core was a good idea. Had a bunch of governors in a room saying, why can't we all just have the same kind of thing going on and let's just help people. And then they went back to their individual states, and whatever the idea was in the room, didn't get executed the way they thought it was going to get executed. And that's kind of NIL is like, let's let the players make some money. And now we go back and it's just crazy. So with that, we get back in segment 2. We're going to talk about the women's game and is it evolving in terms of the college game to the men's side? We'll find out from our panel. We'll be right back on the iCoaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Fowler Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. And in segment 2 is Gino Auriemma right? Current WNBA rules stipulate that players are eligible to be selected in the WNBA draft upon graduating from college or being within 3 months of doing so, or in the calendar year that they turn 22. For example, Paige Beckers, could have declared for the WNBA draft as she turned 22 in October 2023. After being sidelined with an ACL injury, she came back for her 4th year of college, and now with COVID year, she gets a 5th year. Most women's players end up staying in college for the 4 years, and a lot of folks long for the days of Duke teams and Georgetown teams when people played 4 years and you got a chance to see the kids develop and grow. And now we were talking about folks like Juju Watkins, who is good enough right now to go play, but she has to stay in. And remember, WNBA eligibility rules are determined by the WNBA and the WNBA Players Association through collective bargaining. And the current CBA was signed in 2020 and it runs through 2027. But there is a mutual opt-out clause that can be exercised by November 1st, 2024, which is shortly after the WNBA season, which would terminate the agreement after the 2025 season. So, fellas, here's what Gino said, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Gino said a potential one-and-done rule in women's college basketball could ruin the game. Depends on whether you like the game to grow or whether you want to kill it. If you want to kill it, then let the kids leave after their freshman year. So, Will, as a player, what do you think, man? Gino, right, wrong? What are your thoughts?
As a student athlete, I'd be a little I kind of feel a certain way about it. Especially about money and things like that now. Again, NIL changes things, so I'm not rushing to go to the professional ranks immediately. So that's good. But I mean, if we think about it as a parent, and if we even talking about just a viewer, uh, they send guys to the NBA, and these guys can't be, they can't really play basketball. Not only can't they really play basketball well, they're always getting hurt. Their body hasn't developed. You go from 30 games to 82 games, and that's a very big, that's a huge change. Um, I'm so as a parent, as an athlete viewer who watches that, I'm definitely with Gino because I get a lot better product and the professional ranks once when the NBA women's come into the league. They're tougher. They have their injuries and things like that, but for the most part, they're pretty solid. You can watch the game. It's very entertaining. It's very quick, fast. All things that you needed. They're very physical. And that's some of the things that they're talk about that people need to understand is they are very, very physical. Even sometimes more so than the men because they don't get calls like that. So yeah, people just don't understand that. That's one of the biggest things that I hear when I speak to a lot of women who play in the WNBA or things like that. So yeah, I feel like this is better protecting the product. So they come out there, Paige Bucher, she comes out here and now she's a little bit, older and she's in her 20s now, and she's been, beefed up, if you want to say, and she can take on the rigors of the regular season. Look at her. Look how they took with her knees. I mean, if she had went to the WNBA, her ACLs would have been done. She would have, she'd have been injured. She would not have played anymore. But now that she has been in college, she's been injured, she's been able to heal, she's able to work her way up into in a very progressive kind of way. You're not going against like Asia Wilson every week. You're going against other people. You can go easy sometimes. So this makes her where she is. So long story short, I'm with Gino. I appreciate, even though people don't want to hear it, but I think it's the way to protect the student athletes the best way.
All right, Mike, you went to Maryland in the glory days of their basketball and national championship. You saw guys grow up and face adversity and then win it all, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think? Do you want the women's game to be what the men's game is now? What are your thoughts?
So the games are two different places. So I'm just looking at, I agree with Gino, but I'm just looking at it from a purely economic mindset. The number one pick in the NBA draft gets $11 million, gets 40 something million in 4 years. That's a good amount of money. The number one pick in the WNBA draft gets $80,000. She made what, 900,000 in college? So it's a completely different thing at the moment. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I look at it purely how much money does the NBA and WNBA bring in, and that's the salaries and all that kind of stuff. So the superstar in the women's college basketball should stay in college and make money because you'll make a lot more money than if you put that money aside. Then you go to the WNBA. The salary is not great right away, but then you could do the endorsements and other things. And also, like he said, if Caitlin Clark went to the WNBA 3 years ago, the WNBA would be in a worse place right now. Women's college basketball would be in a worse place right now. The game has to grow first before it's star proof. Like college basketball star proof. The superstars can leave and we still watch because we fill out the brackets in March and everyone goes crazy. It doesn't matter. And the NBA, people are going to watch. It doesn't matter. The WNBA needs the people to stay for 3 years and 4 years and build resumes. So we go, oh, Caitlin Clark and 2.4 million people watch the draft. 10 years from now, if there's a Caitlin Clark effect, like there was a Tiger Woods effect, and all of a sudden WNBA's popularity skyrockets, I think you can completely change this conversation and say, yeah, 1 year, 2 years, people are watching anyway. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But right now they're not watching anyway, so it matters. That's how I look at it.
Wrestling 101. The money is in the chase. Booking 101. Cody had a story for 2 years. If you gave Cody the title last year, wouldn't have resonated in the way that it resonated by actually going through another year. It's the same way with women's college basketball. Next year, we can anticipate, pending a few transfers or two, who's going to be on which squad. And now we can kind of funnel our energy to the team. College basketball had a pretty mediocre season on the men's side. Not because guys wasn't working hard or playing hard or whatever, but UConn's dominance, Zach Edey is not going to be a start. You're not going to see Zach Edey in the NBA making major minutes or anything. You're now looking to Caitlin Clark and saying, I want to see the next step. I want to buy the t-shirt. I want to do this. I want to do that because she made us care. So again, at some point, it's going to be the same way. And when people talk about the WNBA and the money, they don't get it. So I don't listen. I tune those conversations out because it's a 40-game league. The WNBA is like 26, 27 years old. And the NBA needed Magic, who's one of the least appreciated superstars like ever. None of this happens without Magic that you see now, but it's Jordan, it's LeBron, it's this, it's that. Even Jordan and them were like, thank you, Irvin, for making people care. Oh, God, thank you. But now,
Wilt,
so that's kind of how I
Wilt
look
Chamberlain spent summers in the Catskills, right? To make extra money. Like
I'm
that's
playing
what it used to be.
volleyball. So, and wrestlers, football players used to wrestle in the off season so they could make a little extra change. Wahoo McDaniel, Ernie the Big Cadillac. So eventually it will change. Hopefully it doesn't change that fast. But will that opt out next year? Keep an eye on your calendar at the end of the WNBA season. So when we get back, transfer portal news, overhyped, overrated. We'll be right back on the iCoaches podcast.
Why should student athletes use the CKA SAVE Project academic and athletic consulting services? Over the past 15 to 20 years, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, business organizations, and others have increased their use of consulting services to improve their decision-making processes and results. Over the same time, the athletic and academic landscape has changed for high school and college student athletes as the NCAA has raised initial academic eligibility requirements for student athletes while decreasing the number of transfer restrictions. Former college student athletes have noted that they were academic and athletically unprepared for the rigors of college. Let the CKA SAVE Project's close to 30 years of academic and athletic experience help guide student athletes to increase success as we work to help student athletes achieve the goal of obtaining a college degree. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the iCoaches podcast in segment 3. This is not news, but we'll talk about it anyway. Colorado football. In the wake of 14 Colorado players entering the transfer portal last week, Buffalo's coach Deion Sanders downplayed the notion that their departures will have any significant impact. Sanders defended the social media posts of his son Shiloh, who instructed transfers to send direct messages to either him or his brother Shador Sanders if they're interested in transferring to Colorado. So before I hand it over to my panel, fellas, Colorado was a 4-8 team and last place in the Pac-12, if I'm not mistaken. So they weren't very good, as we said week after week after week. They're not a very good team. They need better players. 2, players contacting players about playing together. Will, I'm going to start with you. Ain't that Tuesday? You guys know stuff before I even knew a thing about, hey, so-and-so's coming. So-and-so's going there. Because that's what you guys do. So, Will, talk to me about this Colorado story. Because I'm like, what is the story? People leave off bad teams, good teams, mediocre teams, don't matter. And players talk to each other all the time. Tell me your thoughts.
Oh, it's just guys. It's just player stuff. Guys will say, "Hey, let's go." I mean, we've talked to the guys at Blake, Say, hey man, come on, what you
What are
playing?
you
Hey,
doing, man?
hey man, we can get a team out this joint. Like,
We
just
had a
messing around,
consortium before you mentioned that.
Mhm.
We had you could choose which schools to go to. So please
Oh
don't
yeah.
write dirty letters.
But we're just messing around because we would play because we live in the same neighborhood, so we would just play basketball with each other. So we'd be like, "Hey man, like I can play with so and so. Yeah, I ain't never played with you before. Da da da. This is cool. I like this. And we bring it over to here. It's just fun stuff. Anyway, but when you lose 14 players, and you're not like any big changes except for you're trying to bring in. I think they brought in like Warren Sapp. You know, uh, People would mention something. But I will say the biggest thing, people actually are looking at Colorado. Because if you left 14 players left Colorado 3 years ago, you wouldn't hear about that, even if you were looking for it, even if you typed in Colorado football. So it's the Dion effect. So I think it keeps him relevant in some way. So he's doing that. That's what they brought him there. So now they're making money. So I mean, so far, so they'll be the same thing that we're next year, just controversial and we'll see. But
Uh, so, Mike,
not much
you
fun.
are a coach. Coaches talk just like the players do. Is this news? Talk to me, man. Well, let me know what you're thinking.
So the players talking to players. That's every time someone commits somewhere, the next thing they post is, "I'm going to bring everyone I can with me." Like that's every single thing. That's not a big deal. What the thing that I don't like, because I've worked at places for bosses who felt certain ways. Let's say it that way, where like, they're gone. Who cares? We don't need them. We're better off without them. None of them are good anyway. Like that kind of stuff. Like that that could work year 1 and 2, but if you're still 4 and 8, eventually people start going, "What are you talking about? You lost a 5-star recruit. You lost a guy that was your first big cornerback recruit at Colorado. That's not a big deal. What, we're all just replaced?" Like people will start to feel that if you're 4 and 8. If you're 8 and 4, no one cares. But if you're 4 and 8 and this kind of stuff is how you speak about your players and former players, that I think that is the problem. But for right now, it's fine because you're still in the honeymoon phase.
Yes,
But
and that was his first year.
yeah,
And
first year.
as a person who has been a first year coach, the first thing you want to do is maximize whatever talent you have and then start to build up. So last year, that's the best he could do. And he
Mhm.
had no line. Now, not only are they switching conferences, but your shell people, your Will Cottons, for me, have had a chance to assess. And that is one of the things Will did an awesome job of for us is during tryouts, this guy is not for us. Coach, we need to look at that one. Or I really like this kid. So those are the things that are happening now in Colorado. Will, would you like to speak about that before we move on to Michigan? But literally, the players will tell you sometimes as a coach, I don't know. You tell anyway. Share your thoughts, Will.
Yeah, sometimes you tell them. I mean, we're all building for the same thing. We're trying to win. So if you have a voice to the coach, I mean, it's easy to say, hey, so and so, he's always staying up all late. He's not reading the playbook. Why? So and so is doing thing. I be at the gym when I'm at the gym. He's there maybe an hour before me. Man, start giving him some looks. So it's definitely important that you have players that have that communication, go back and forth to coaches and things like that. So that's a good culture, I think. Colorado has. They have a good culture. They just don't have good players yet. There are some things they have to work on as a culture, as we all did when we're growing up, especially in high school. But I think they'll be fine if Dion stays it. He keeps bringing in good coaches and removing bad ones and getting good players in. It'll pop. It always happens. At some point, every coach, every team has had his moment, and he'll get his eventually. So it'll take some time, but they have a really good culture if they can have that kind of back and forth communication. Obviously, it's his sons, but
All right. So, folks, there's some NCAA violations that were in the news. Michigan will serve 3 years probation, pay a fine, face recruiting restrictions after the university and 5 current or former football employees reached an agreement with the NCAA enforcement staff based on some things that they did during COVID. This is not about the Connor Stallions communications piece. In addition, Arizona State announced that the school and 4 former employees related to recruiting violations that occurred under Coach Herm Edwards was placed on probation. The NCAA acknowledged that the school's self-imposed 1-year ban last year helped them. Herm Edwards was found to have committed a, quote, responsibility violation. And that's actually one of the first times I've ever heard that. So, Will, any thoughts on Michigan or Arizona State having some violations, sir?
Man, I think it's just messed up that, Jim Harbaugh got to go off into sunset and all that stuff happened. And then, he acted like he's like, oh, I want to bring this next guy in. And I forgot the name, the brother's name, but he brought him in. He's like, yeah, he's going to give Michigan a chance to keep winning. And then all of a sudden, all these things came down. And, I know it is that's business, but, that's still another. I don't really like Jim Harbaugh's energy that he moves around.
Sharon Moore got the gig.
Yeah. It sucks. Arizona State, nobody will know, nobody will care. We'll never wake up. We'll never, see them stay up late enough to see that anyway. They were bad anyway. Business
Mike,
as usual.
Mike, I'm gonna have you close out because Herb Edwards is back at ESPN, and the ringleader, according to the report, Antonio Pierce, is the head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. So, what do you think about that enforcement, Mike? You've got the last word.
I mean, if these were smaller schools, then there'd be real punishments. Michigan gets away with it, and they win a national. I mean, it's just a joke. It's a joke, and everyone just leaves, and teams get away with. If they could get away with murders, they'd get away with murder if they win. But if they're just an school, they'll get like the death penalty for the program because that's how the NCAA works now. It's how it's always worked. It's how it always will work. Why have rules?
All right. So with that, on behalf of our Cavalcade of Stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast. And we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.